Hello, hello, it is day 2 and I am here to jump in. Let's dive right in and talk about meal planning today. We are going to hit the topic of getting started. So how do you make your list? What are you going to make? What do I do to get started? And a couple of things that you need to figure out are two things. How often are you going grocery shopping? How often are you planning out for? Some people like to plan out for an entire month. Some people like to plan out for 2-3 weeks at a time. Some people like to plan out for a week. I personally am a once a week planner. I go grocery shopping once a week. I make my plan for everything that we're going to eat for that week. So that's kind of how I do things, but you need to decide for yourself when you go grocery shopping and how far in advance you are going to plan for. A couple of really cool tools that I'm going to share in a PDF with you as well is these little meal planning tricks. I actually bought this at a local home goods store and I hang it in my kitchen. I write here what we're having for the menu for the week and I hang it in the kitchen. A big tip for you is that you should really be displaying your weekly plan for your family so that they're not asking you every night, Mom, what's for dinner? My husband knows that he can come and read my meal plan for the week and know exactly what we're going to have, and he doesn't really have to ask or be bothered with that information because he can just check it himself. So that de-stresses me, it de-stresses him because he knows exactly what we're going to be doing. So the first thing that I do is I like to look through my pantry, my freezer, my refrigerator, and see what food I had left from the week before. Any meats that need to be eaten, any canned good that I would like to use. And what this does is cuts down on the amount of waste that you have. I do not like to waste food. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine. So I always like to scan all of the areas where I carry food in my house, my pantry, my freezer, my refrigerator, and see what kind of ingredients that I have to work with before I go buy more at the store. So I typically write those down and then I try and find recipes for the week that will use those ingredients. So say I had some leftover mushrooms in the refrigerator that I really need to get to, or they're going to go bad, I will make sure that early in the week that I will use those mushrooms for a recipe, those kinds of things. Any meats that need to be cooked or prepped or things like that, keep those things in mind. And another quick tip for you, if any of the foods that you have left over, produce for example, seems to be kind of lived its life and it's almost to that point where you know you're not going to eat it but you don't want to throw it away, you can freeze it, you guys. A lot of times I freeze my extra produce. Strawberries go bad particularly fast when they start to look like they're starting to go to the dark side. I chop them up, put them in a freezer bag and throw them in the freezer because I like to do smoothies for our family, and you can throw in fruits and vegetables and all kinds of stuff in smoothies and I swear you won't even know that it's in there. So any extra like zucchini, celery, I put in different greens like spinach or kale, those kinds of things in my shake that I drink in the morning, and you can't even taste it. Leftover cauliflower, those kinds of things, butternut squash, sweet potatoes, and you can't even taste it. So any of your stuff is starting to go to the dark side, just put it in a freezer container and put it in the freezer. Same thing like if you're making a recipe and it calls for like a 1/4 cup of crushed pineapple and you bought this huge can, what are you going to do with the rest? If I know that recipe is something that I'm going to make again and it calls for a 1/4 cup of crushed pineapple, I will put 1/4 cup amounts in Ziploc containers and put those in the freezer so I'm not wasting the rest of the stuff in that can. And then when I want to make that recipe again, I can just pull one out of the freezer and defrost it and I won't be wasting food. So kind of keep those things in mind when you're buying produce, how you can repurpose it and reuse it for other things so that you're not wasting any of your ingredients. I like to buy premium food. I like to feed my family healthy food. It's a little bit more costly in the front end, so I just want to make sure that I'm not wasting any of those ingredients. So how do I figure out what I'm going to make? I definitely sit down and figure out what ingredients that I have to use. The second thing I do is I start doing a little bit of research on recipes. Now, I have been meal planning and meal prepping for years now, and I just have like a really good stock of recipes that I know my family loves. I also have access to a really amazing cooking show and 2 cookbooks that fit into the nutrition plan that I follow for myself and my family. So I always use that as a reference guide for myself to find recipes. They post recipes every week in there. If you want more information about that, shoot me a message, but it's definitely a really great place to find recipes. You can use Pinterest, you can use Instagram, you can use Google, do a recipe swap with your friends, make sure it's healthy recipes. and it fits your nutritional specifications, but use resources with other people. I'm sure you're friends with a ton of moms just like me. Ask them what their favorite go-to recipe is for dinner and start a little recipe swap amongst your friends. You could even have like a little cooking club. The other thing I do after I figure out what my recipes are, I write them on my calendar for the week so that my family knows exactly what we're going to be eating. Another thing I do is I keep in mind how many times we're having chicken, how many times we're having beef, how many times we're having fish. I personally want to have a variety of different proteins for my family and not just be eating a lot of red meat or a lot of chicken, which will get boring, or too much fish because you don't want to have the issues with mercury or anything that. So having a variety and a good balance for your body is also extremely important. As I'm writing down my recipes and looking to see what ingredients I have, I put them on a recipe list or a grocery list. I have a PDF file in the email, so check that out with a really great recipe guide just like this one. But you can write in there what proteins you need, what fruits and vegetables you need. There's even a little spot in the bottom to write down what your recipes are so you can remember when you go to the store. So this is a really great resource. I write down all the ingredients that I need as I'm making my list so that I can cross match and make sure that I have everything that I need. So that's kind of where you kind of start. You figure out what recipes you want, you make your grocery list, and then it's time to go shopping. So tomorrow I'm going to talk to you about how I navigate the grocery store and what I get. Have a good day, you guys.